Hi, Queens. Hey, it's me. Again. Episode 2. Back at it again. You know, the norm. Alrighty. So today I actually wanted to have a conversation about dating apps versus real life dating. Okay. This has been something that's been on my mind. I mean, this topic in itself was the reason why I wanted to start this podcast. Podcast? What am I talking about? Sorry, I meant podcast. The main reason why I wanted to start this podcast in the first place was because of this topic. Because I remember I'm kind of weird. Okay, so I like to walk around and talk to myself to help me self-process what I'm going through and life situations that I'm going through, right? And so one of the major problems that I've had in this past year is the fact that whenever I'm on dating apps, right, and I have a profile, I've put this profile together, I've worked hard on presenting myself a certain way and kind of explaining what I'm looking for and explaining who I am and what I want, right? And then I find myself getting a lot of traction on dating apps, really. I mean, I get a lot of matches. I get talked to a lot. Sometimes it's a waste of time. Sometimes it's not a waste of time. Sometimes it's a good time. Sometimes it's not a good time, right? And I have that experience on dating apps, but then whenever I'm in person with someone, I don't think I've ever had a man approach me, say hi, how you doing, my name is whatever, right? But it happens to my roommates a lot. And the thing is, I don't know what those conversations end up being like, because I think a lot of them, I like to assume, a lot of them end up being more like sex-based, more or less like approaching you because you look good and I want to see where I can take you tonight, you know what I mean? But I think it's funny because oftentimes whenever I'm out and about and I see my roommates getting that attention or being approached by these guys, right? I always think to myself, what makes them different from me? What makes them more attractive to the point where they feel it, to the point where other people feel as though they're approachable and I'm not, right? It's really funny because I think a lot of people have this experience. Like, I think a lot of people, the more that I talk to people, because when I first had said I wanted to do a podcast, and people were asking me, okay, well, what are you going to talk about? Like, what do you have to talk about if you're going to do a podcast, right? And I would say, I wanted to talk about how sometimes, like, for example, sometimes whenever I'm out and, I think a guy's cute, I'll look at him and he'll look at me and he won't say anything. And I'll just be like, oh, well, maybe I'm just not cute, right? And that's the problem. The problem is that I would always think that it was me. I would always think maybe I'm not attractive enough. Maybe I'm not pretty enough. Okay, maybe I'm not beautiful. Okay, maybe I'm not this beautiful person that deserves to be approached, right? But then I started to realize that, well, why don't I approach people? Okay, why don't I talk to people? And so then I came to the conclusion of, well, I'm a very socially awkward person. I'm definitely still in that point in my life where if I see someone attractive, like, out and about, like, I'm very, like, geeky, like, I get, oh my god, it's a cute person, I'm that kind of person, right? I'm still kind of like that, even though I'm, like, older, like, I'm 19 and I still do that, like, oh my gosh, it's irritating. But and then also I think too we also have a society that's very much like on edge when it comes to the approaching of women in public. Uh, like especially like in clubs, when women are more likely to be under the influence, right? Or when you're walking around places, women are a lot more on edge. We're like, don't approach me. And so I think I have watched a lot of media talking about how like approaching women is getting harder because ultimately a lot of men feel like um they're like, I don't know how to explain it. What did they say? It was something along the lines of like they feel like men could be infringing on women's safety. And so a lot of men don't approach women because they're like, why would I want to approach her? Because number one, what if they see you and they think she's so beautiful? She probably gets approached all the time. So I'm not going to approach her because what would I have to offer to her that somebody else probably hasn't already offered to her? Right? What do I have? And then second of all, there's also been this conversation of, like I said, men are scared to approach women because they don't want to be seen as aggressive or a harasser. And then women, we've even made it very known that a lot of the times women, we agree to things such as giving our numbers or agree to dates just because in that moment, we could be too scared to say no. Because we also have that other side of society where there's this fear to say no to men. There's this fear to be like, you know what, I'm really not that interested. I mean, just think about the amount of cases of women who have had a man approach them, and when the woman says, you know what, actually I'm not interested, not I have a boyfriend, but I'm not interested, I'm sorry, I'm sorry, I'm just not interested in you, or I'm just not interested in being in a relationship right now, or I'm just not interested in giving you the time of day, I'm sorry. Like, the amount of times that women will then be assaulted in some way, or be told that you weren't good enough for me anyways, right? Or you're not, I didn't want you anyways, you're like, you know what I mean? And I think like that is such a hard like maze to struggle through, because I think even in my own head I think to myself like, I don't want to talk to somebody in person because there's always that 50-50 chance that they don't like me, that they don't find me attractive. But then you have to think about what men have to deal with when it's like a lot of the times women will say yes to a man in person just because we're scared, just because we're nervous, just because we don't know what else to say, and we don't know what you're going to do to us if we say no to you. And so I think dating is such a complex world, because I think it's so easy to devalue yourself because people don't understand how discriminatory the world of dating is, because it quite literally is one person looking for another person that they value over other people. And so I think it's really funny because it's so easy for us to discriminate against ourselves before we really allow someone else to just see who we are as a person and really understand how beautiful we are as a person. Right? And I think a lot of people really don't give themselves enough credit, especially in the dating world. I think, especially when you look at a lot of the red pill content, right? And they're talking about how, like, women need to bring something to the table. What do women have to bring to the table? And for a long time, I was not necessarily a consumer of red pill content, but I was, trying to learn different perspectives on dating from red pill content and also other relationship coach content. And so in a lot of ways, red pill content made me insecure because there's a lot of this message of, what do you bring to the table? You're expecting X, Y, and Z, but how do you rate yourself as a woman? Because as a woman, are you actually whatever? Like, do you provide for yourself as a woman? Why would you want a man to provide for you, whatever. And I think it's so crazy because, like, when you look at like the dating scene right now, there are a lot of women who do have that expectation that men are supposed to provide for them and that men are supposed to automatically take this caring to them, right? And I think it's so funny because this is where we kind of go into the conversation of dating expectations versus dating reality, because the media really does like to portray this idea of perfect dating where like this is what you should expect from a man when you start talking to him, this is how you know what his motivations are, yada yada yada, blah 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 blah. But we've kind of taken the humanity out of dating. We have forgotten the humanity behind dating. And the reason why I say that is because of the whole if he wanted to he would movement, right? For the longest time, whenever I was talking to a guy, I would always subscribe to the if he wanted to, he would movement. And for those of you that are unaware of the if he wanted to, he would movement, it's more or less the idea of like a man should be going through huge strides to impress you, almost to the point where he should be doing what you want him to do without him even knowing that's what you want him to do. So like there'll be videos of like a man bringing his girlfriend flowers at like 3 a.m. just because she texted him she was sad. Really? Come on now. You making all the girls look bad. Because like at the end of the day, right? How are we supposed to build that expectation if we don't already know what each person likes? And so a lot of the times the girls will, I found, even in myself in the past, I would build these expectations for dating, and I would build these expectations, and I would say, I want this. This is what I want. This is what I really, really want. I want you to give me this, and I want this on our date, and I want to do this, and I want to do that. And then I would realize that I was so high up in these expectations that I wouldn't really necessarily see the person behind it, and I wouldn't necessarily see, well, I want all of these things from this person, but how does this person demonstrate love, right? What is love to this person? And in a lot of ways, I think that's why in relationships, and especially when you're even just in the talking stage, having conversations about your love language and what shows appreciation to you versus what shows appreciation to them is something that's really, really important very early on in your relationship. Because I think if one person feels loved this way and another person feels loved in another way, there isn't necessarily a problem, right? Even though we have different love languages, there isn't necessarily a problem. But both people have to be able to compromise to show that other person that they feel loved by doing what makes them feel loved. So like if, for example, if the way that I feel loved is through words of affirmation, but the person that I'm with doesn't necessarily feel loved through words of affirmation, they love gift giving, or they love touch, right? Even though I love words of affirmation, I should not be going out of my way to affirm I should be affirming my partner, but I should not only be affirming my partner, I should be showing them love the way that they like to be loved. If they loved being touched, if they love being given gifts, whether that means like, just little things showing that I'm thinking about you. But I think that there is this huge emphasis on expectation versus reality. And I have found that in my experience, I've had to actually silence a lot of the media that I watch pertaining to relationships because of that turnover between expectations versus reality and reality versus expectations, right? So I think that in my experience, whenever I'm having an issue, like there are times where sometimes I'm feeling really sad or I'm really feeling alone, especially during the holidays. I'm feeling really sad or I'm feeling really alone, and I don't really know what to do. And so the first thing I do is go on Instagram Reels, and I'll see like relationship content and it'll just make me feel worse. And so it's gotten to the point where I'll be like, I'm not interested. And I'll just like put not interested for all the relationship reels and stuff. And then somehow get back on like a meme page or something stupid like that. But I think actual steps towards making yourself feel better is to, first of all, look at where you are. I think that can mean a plethora of things. That could mean look at where you are, as in what are some passion projects that you want to work on. This podcast is a passion project of mine, right? What's something that you are passionate about that you haven't been able to do for a while? Such as like maybe you're really, really passionate about, I don't know. I don't know, painting. Maybe you're really into painting. When's the last time that you painted? When's the last time that you've wrote a song? When's the last time that you've cooked? When's the last time that you've drawn? Whatever you're passionate about, fill in that blank. When's the last time you've done that thing? Every time that you find that moment to be obsessive over that thing that really makes you feel, ugh, when's the last time you've done something that you just love to do, that brings you joy, that makes you stop thinking and start creating, doing something, right? Second, value what you already have. I think whenever I get sad about the dating scene, or something happens between me and a guy, right? My first thing is that I always do is return back to family, right? That doesn't necessarily mean like complain to my family about everything, but like just living in the moment with my family. Doing activities with my family, making my family a priority. Because sometimes you get so caught up and obsessed with that one thing in your life that you don't have, that you really, really want. And then you find yourself like realizing, hey, I haven't called my mom in 3 weeks. Hey, I haven't talked to my friends back home in a month. I wonder what they're up to, what they're doing. Why did I say going? That's really funny. Anyways, what are they up to? What are they doing? Right? Involve yourself with people that make you happy, because constantly finding yourself in this endless cycle of looking for something but you can't find it is only going to make it worse. You're just gonna keep going around like this, and it just, every single time, the heartbreak is going to hurt even more, okay? The last thing, stop looking for it. Let it find you. Stop looking for love. Let it find you. I think some of the best people that I've ever met in my life, I wasn't seeking out to find those friends, right? I wasn't walking around with my hand in the air saying, I need friends. Does anybody want to be my friend? I need friends. Like, no, I think my best friend in the whole entire world, okay, funny story time. My best friend in the whole entire world actually, what came to me when I was in 7th grade. And I remember it was like my first week at a new school, and I didn't know anyone. I had no friends. It was a Christian school, and I remember I just didn't know where anything was. And so this one girl started talking to me, and she was like, yeah, I've been here for literally forever. Like, if you need to know where something is, or you need to know how you can get somewhere, just ask me and I'll show you where it is. And I said, oh, well, we have most of the same classes. Can you take me around? Like, can you show me around, can you show me around to where all the classes were? And so even though, like, in that moment, we weren't best friends, like, we were not best friends. We just kind of were two people that were going to the same school, and I was lost, and she had been there since preschool. So we were just, like, walking around with each other, right? After a while, we literally, by my 8th grade year, we were best friends. Inseparable. Always around each other, right? And to this day, even though I go to school in a different part of the country, we are still best friends. I could go a month without calling this girl. I could go a month without talking to this girl. I could go a week. I could probably go a year without talking to this girl. And I could still call her up and we would still talk like it's old times. Like we literally, like we would pick right back up. Just like that. We're the same person. I love her. She's my bestest friend in the world. And so, that all goes to show that, like, sometimes the best people that you need around you are not going to be found because you're looking for them. Because sometimes you're looking for all the wrong things. Sometimes, I think, the best lesson that I've ever learned was, the fact that we always think we know what's best for us. Like, I think in a lot of ways we do know what's best for us because we know what we want, right? We know what we want, but we don't necessarily know what's best for us, right? I think it's funny because one of my favorite Christian artists, What Up RG, right? He had this sample that said, no one knows what's best for you. Only you know what's best for you. Your mom may know what's best for you. I don't know the exact quote, but like, your mom may know what's best for you, but she doesn't know what's best for you. Only you know what's best for you. And like, I remember at one point in my life, I agreed because I was like, no one can tell me what's best for me. Like, no one can tell me what is the best option for me. But then I've been in so many situations where I thought what was best for me was this specific thing, or was this person, or was this boyfriend, or once I had this person, I had this picture perfect life, or once I had this thing, I had this picture perfect life, or once I applied for this job, or once I auditioned for this one specific part, right? And I thought that this is going to be the perfect part for me. This is the part that I want. This is who I am. This is the part that I want. And then I remember, like, as time would go on, maybe this person would completely be a terrible person, and I would find out that my life was way better without them than with them in my life. Or maybe I would get a different part in the play or a different part in the musical that I wasn't exactly thinking of having. But when I started to become that character and act out that character, I realized that I wouldn't want to be anybody else in the play because this is who I am. And that's how it was when I was in Clue. Like, when I did the fall play Clue at my school, I remember that I don't know who I wanted to be. I think at the time, I don't remember who I wanted to be, but I ended up being Yvette, the French maid. And I remember looking back on it, I remember not necessarily being psyched about being Yvette. I'd found out that I was Yvette literally on my drive home. Don't ask me why I was on my phone, but I was on my drive home back home after school, and I had pulled up the cast listing because they had sent out the cast listing after auditions. I pulled the cast listing because I was really excited and I hope I got a part, and I was praying I got a part, and I was scrolling, and I realized that I was Yvette. And when I first saw Yvette, I was like, I don't even know what Yvette is. Like, what is Yvette? Like, what? And I showed up to the reading and I realized that she was the French maid, and I was like, I don't want to be Yvette, but okay, like, I got a part in the play. There's only like there were less than 10 parts that you could be. So it's kind of like being a part of a less than 10 cast was something that is something to really be proud of. I mean, like, out of all the people that auditioned, I was picked, right? And so I remember I was so disappointed, but I was like, you know what? I'm just going to make the best of it. I'm just happy to be in the play. And I remember as time went on, I realized that as we were settling into our parts and we were really getting into the meat of the play and the blocking for the play, I realized that I wouldn't want to be anybody else in the play. I wouldn't want to be anybody else. I loved I loved her storyline. I loved that she was French, so I got to practice a French accent. When I got to wear my costume, I loved my costume because I was literally wearing this cute little French outfit, this French maid outfit, and I got a little duster prop, so I got to like walk around dusting things. I got to push a bar cart, and I got to walk like this, and I got to just be a little cutesy girl, and that's who I am. Like, I am a cutesy little girl. So like, I literally was like, it was my favorite thing. Like, I loved being the maid, and it was a great experience. And experiences like that remind me that a lot of the times, like, we like to think that we know what's good for us. Like, we like to think that we know everything about what we want and what we need. But a lot of the times that's not the case. A lot of the times we don't know what's best for us. And sometimes we are pushed into situations or denied certain opportunities, and certain doors are closed because of the fact that we don't necessarily know what's best for us, right? And so doors are opened when things are best for us, but doors are closed when they're just what we want and not what's best for us. You see what I'm saying? But, I think it's funny because we're like 25 minutes in and I've yet to ask you how you're doing. So I'm going to ask you, how are you doing today? What's going on in your life? Remember, when we talk about how we're doing or how we've been, right, we normally talk about like what's been going on in our lives or what we've been up to in our lives, right? But like, give me something. How are you doing? What are you doing? What's going on in your life? I know it's Christmas break, so like, what have you been up to during Christmas break? Have you been working? Have you been taking time to yourself? Are you sick like me? Like what have you been up to? And I'll let you answer that, and I will be back in a little bit. Bye. All right, welcome back. Welcome back. I hope that that time was very beneficial to you. I really hope that you really took advantage of that time and you were really, really able to just sit down with your thoughts and think about how you're feeling and think about how your life is going. So today, this episode, I really want to talk about our passions in life and dating people based on our passions in life. And the reason why I want to talk about this is today I was actually sitting in the shower. Well, not sitting in the shower. I guess you stand in the shower. But I was standing in the shower and I was thinking about this one time that I was just, scrolling on dating apps as people my age do, right? And I had matched with this guy. And after we had like our normal conversations of like, how are you doing today? I'm doing good. What do you do every day? I go to school. What do you do every day? I go to work. Da, 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 da. After all those like, normal conversations that you have, he actually asked me, what are you passionate about? And I never really had someone my age ask me that, because I think that we don't really call what we like to do our passions. And even then again, like, what you like to do can be your passion, but then again, what you like to do could not be your passions in life. I think everybody's passions are different. So the way that I see my passions in life is I like to see my passions as the things that I do in my life that give me meaning, that make my life meaningful, and that make me feel like I mean something in this world. And so when someone asks me what my passions are, and even when he asked me that question, I think as a person, I always find myself scared to show who I actually am, because I feel as though people will always kind of see me as too deep or see me as too much. I've always been an emotional person, I'd say. I have very big emotions. And so it's really hard for me to find other people that are like me, because a lot of people don't really like to show their emotions. They don't really like to be emotional people like me. And so when he asked me that question, I actually was taken aback, and I really had to think about it, because I was like, you know, I could go into this long list of things that I do in my life, or these long lists of things that I'm proud of that I've done, but ultimately, is that what I'm passionate about? Like, am I passionate about what I've accomplished? And the thing is like, yes and no. I think honestly, yes and no. That would be my answer. If you were to ask me, am I passionate about the things that I've accomplished? I would say yes and no. And the reason why I would say yes is because I've accomplished some great things. I mean, from a young age, I did a lot of science fair, so I got to go to state science fair at least once in my life, right? I went to senior prom. I went by myself, but I went to senior prom in one of the best prom outfits that I've ever I think I ever could have dreamed up. I mean, honestly, it was the most beautiful outfit. I mean, if you look at my my profile picture for my channel, you'll see that is what I wore for prom, and it was one of the most beautiful outfits I could have ever worn. Another thing that I've accomplished, like playing lacrosse, like having a job, just these long lists of things that I've done in my life that I'm proud of, right? But I wouldn't say that those things are what I'm passionate about, right? And so when I was thinking about how to answer that question, I had then came up with the definition of, okay, the things that I'm passionate about are things that give my life meaning. And so I was thinking to myself, I was like, has me going to state science fair, was that something that gave my life meaning? No, I don't think that the state science fair gave my life meaning. Okay, playing lacrosse, does playing lacrosse give my life meaning? I don't think so. I don't think that I'm very passionate about, even though I do love the sport, right? I'm not passionate about that one specific thing in my life, even though I love doing it and it's something that I enjoy doing. I don't think it's a major passion in my life, right? And then so I'm thinking about all the things that I do in my life, and I realized that one of the main things that I am passionate about is working with children. I love working with children. I'm a summer camp counselor in the summer, and right now I'm also a swim instructor for small children. And I honestly, throughout working with children, I think my first time really working with children, which was me being a summer camp counselor, really showed me what my passion in life was. And it was being a summer camp counselor. It was taking care of children, and it was being that positive influence in their life. One of my biggest missions as a summer camp counselor was really showing kids that it's okay to be themselves, right? And so one huge part about me being a summer camp counselor is actually I'll take you even further back. So when I was in grade school, I was bullied a lot. It had a lot to do with what I looked like. It had a lot to do with the fact that I was a little chubby. So I had a little bit of a stomach. I was a little chubbier than the rest of the girls in my class. And I also wasn't really developing my womanly shape, right? I was a little boxy. I was a little chubby. And I wasn't necessarily what was considered beautiful in my school, right? And so I was made fun of a lot because of that. And having those experiences, especially at the age that I had those experiences, which was more or less when I was between the ages of, I think, 9 to 13, I was dealing with a lot of body image issues and dealing with a lot of recognizing that I'm different from other people and that I didn't exactly like the same types of fashion and the same types of things that the people around me liked. And so in dealing with that, you would imagine my surprise when I became the summer camp counselor for the 11 to 13-year-old girls. And I made up in my mind at that moment that I wanted to be that summer camp counselor, to be that influence, to be that older person in their lives, to kind of demonstrate to them that being different is okay, and that liking someone or thinking that someone is cool just because they're different is okay. Just because you like them as a person and you think that they're different is different doesn't mean that they're different is wrong, right? And that was a lot of words, but in a shorter way to explain it, I would say that my main objective as a summer camp counselor was to let everyone know that even though someone might be different from you, it doesn't mean that their differences are weird or wrong or, I don't know, gross or disgusting. You know what I mean? And so every week, of course, I would have my stereotypical Lululemon girls, the ones that wore the Lululemon leggings and, the big sweatshirts and that have like the names of random colleges on them. That's what I like to call them, right? I would have girls that wore stuff like that, but then you would also have your more alternative girls, the girls that like to wear big eyeliner and dark clothes and had band tees and things like that. And it's funny because when I was in high school, I more identified with those types of girls. I was more alternative. I listened to Pierce the Veil and still do. I love Pierce the Veil, huge Pierce the Veil fan. And I just love alternative fashion. When I was in high school, I used to wear big eyeliner, huge eyeliner that went all the way up to my eyebrow, right? I was alternative. And so seeing those girls, depicting all the different types of phases that I might have had when I was in high school or when I was in junior high, it kind of made me realize that this is my opportunity to really show these girls that different is okay. It's okay to be different. And so it's funny because the way that I present now, you wouldn't know that I had a background of being alternative. You wouldn't know that I listened to Pierce the Veil. And so whenever I would meet these alternative girls, their first response to me was always like hesitant. Like they'd always be like, "Who are you? Like, I don't know you, like I don't whatever." And then you like start talking to them about like the kinds of fashion that they like and like what they like to do, and then they realize you're just like me. You like just same things that I do. You like the same kind of music that I like. You like Arctic Monkeys? Yeah, I like Arctic Monkeys. Of course I do. Oh my gosh, I love that too. You like indie music? I love indie music. Oh my gosh. And so like the alternative kids would love me because they're like, you're just like me, and I wouldn't have known it unless I talked to you. And I'm like, yeah, you wouldn't know it. And then the way that I speak, right? So like the way that I speak around the kids, I'm very Slay Queen. How you doing, girl? How you doing, girly pop? What's it like? You know what I mean? I'm that kind of like literally, basically, honestly, like I'm like that. And so like the Lululemon girls would always want to be around me because they'd always be like, oh my gosh, Natalia's so slay. She's such a queen. She's so whatever. And so I would find a way to get these two completely opposite kinds of people to interact with each other just because of the fact that they both liked me. And so it was introducing the Lululemon girls and saying, hey, this type of music, it's really cool and it's actually really nice. And so like playing those kinds of music to make the alternative kids feel safe, but at the same time exposing the Lululemon girls that only probably listen to Taylor Swift, that don't have much exposure to music like this, to kind of feel like, okay, this is normal. My camp counselor likes this. I feel safe around my camp counselor. So this has to be safe. This has to be, normal. This is okay. And it's okay that I like this too. And so a huge part of that was I unknowingly really went into being a summer camp counselor, kind of trying to turn these girls into, understanding that liking what you like is okay, but not liking other people because you don't like what they like isn't okay, right? And so my first day that I would meet them, because they would come in on a Sunday and they would do their swim tests and stuff, and I was a lifeguard, so I would always be a part of the swim test. And the first day that they would meet me, I'd always have like this really like this really annoying bright yellow and black emoji swimsuit on that definitely is from 2018. Like, it's so cringy. Like, even looking at it, even looking at old pictures of me in it makes me cringe, right? And so I would always walk up to the girls who like already had that persona of like, I'm the popular girl, I know who I am who I am, right? And I would walk up to those girls and I'd be like, hey, do you like my swimsuit? Like, isn't my swimsuit slay? And they would look at me and they would register, this is an adult, I can't be disrespectful to an adult, and she's really cool and she's been talking to me, and you know, I like her already, right? And they'll always be like, yeah, that's slay, I love it. And the rest of the group would be like, yeah, we love your swimsuit, you're slaying, you're eating. And it's like at that moment, I would always use that test as a way to kind of set this boundary of, the last thing we're going to do is make people feel uncomfortable in their own skin. And I really continued to push that message. And that's something that I want to push with everybody, not just children, but like anybody that I meet, is I want to kind of live my life out. Live my life out in a way that makes people realize that, you know, being different is okay. Being different is scary sometimes, it's hard sometimes, but it's okay and it's safe. And there's nothing in this world stopping me from being myself, because who I am is who I am. I was born this way, and I can't really change the way that I was born. I can't really change my circumstances. I can change some circumstances, I guess, but I can't change what I was born into. I can't change that I look the way that I look. I can't change that I like what I like. But what I can do is unapologetically live me and be me. And that's something that I really want everyone who ever comes in contact with me to know. I want them to know that being yourself is all you really can do. But being yourself and living proud of being yourself is something that everyone should strive to do. But back to the conversation about passions, right? That's one of my major passions is children. But I think another huge passion of mine, something that gives my life meaning, is really just giving advice to my friends. And that's where this podcast really comes from. This podcast really comes from the fact that I was the advice friend. I was the friend that everybody would ask for advice. Like, if I had a friend that was dealing with boy problems, they would always ask me, hey, what should I do? What should I do? And I would always give sound advice to that person. But then whenever it came to my situation, obviously, it's too hard for me to follow my advice. It's too hard for me to do whatever. You know what I mean? Like, and it's very normal for people to feel that way, because it's always easier said than done. It's so easy for me to tell you, hey, this is all you have to do, right? But whenever you're that person in question in that situation, it's a lot harder to see how easy the steps are in order to get out of that situation. And of course, in recent years, I've gotten a lot better, especially when it comes to dating and what I'm willing to tolerate and what I'm not willing to tolerate when talking to certain people. And that's a whole different episode. Or maybe we'll get to it later. I don't know. But it's funny because like, giving advice to people has always been a passion of mine. I feel like throughout my life I've had so many life experiences where I've been able to see certain situations play out and see certain people experience certain things, and then turn around and be able to then learn what happened in that situation, and then be able to tell someone, well, in my experience, I've seen X, Y, and Z. And that's where a lot of my advice comes from, is from life experiences, watching carefully what other people have been through, and watching carefully what I've been through and what I've learned from every situation I've ever been in. And so I think that another huge passion of mine would be giving advice. I mean, like, yeah, I love giving advice to people. I love talking to people. And speaking of talking to people, and hopefully I'm going to put this on the screen when I say it, but I have an email, okay? I have an email that you can email anytime, any day, any night, and you can email me any questions or any situations that you might be going through, and I will anonymously talk through these situations, put them on to the podcast, so that if you write into me and you tell me that you're going through something, I would love to talk you through it. I would love to sit down and have a conversation with you and talk you through the situation. I love giving advice. I love being there for people. And that's what this podcast is for. This podcast is for me to be here for you. So think of it, if you want to think of it as an old school advice column, sure. Think of it that way. I would love to have an old school advice column. I think that I think in a lot of ways they were kind of funny to see played out, but I think in this case scenario, I really, really, really want to be here to help people, and that's what this podcast is here for, is to just help you and to be here for you. So yeah, if you have anything that you want to talk about, any concerns that you have, write into me. I'm here, I'm listening, and I'm so ready to be there to kind of use this platform as a way to help people out there that really need help. So yeah, but as far as everything else goes, I think this is when I will start to wind down this episode. I'm so happy that you joined me today. I'm so very glad that I'm able to do this and to be here with you guys. I love talking to you guys. I love sitting down, getting my makeup on, and holding my little teddy bear and just talking to you guys about life and how hard life can be. But we have there's so many things that we can talk about on this podcast that I'm really, really excited about. So that's where I'll probably end it. Thank you for joining me. This has been Natalia, and this is the Just Another Teen podcast. And I'm literally just another teen. So yeah, thank you so much for joining me. Bye.